Hello mga kababayan, welcome to my channel. Welcome to Laruan ni Obi-Wan. So the figure that we have for review tonight is the Miles Morales Spider-Man. So this is the Gamerverse version, the 2021 Gamerverse version. So the latest one. So this Miles Morales Spider-Man is also part of the Build a Figure wave for the Marvel character Armadillo. So in this Armadillo wave, there are 3 Spider-Man action figures that are available. So we have the integrated suit Spider-Man, we have the black and gold suit Spider-Man, and we have the Miles Morales Spider-Man. So I have seen these 3 figures in stock in store at Target and GameStop, and the 2 figures that would always be picked up and would always be gone on shelves or in store, especially online, would always be the integrated suit Spider-Man and this Miles Morales Spider-Man. This black and gold version would always be available on peg in my 15 to 20 mile radius. So from where I live, the Targets that I frequent or the GameStop that I frequent would always have this black and suit version, but I don't know, so people in my area just won't pick this guy up. And personally, when I also checked this figure, I was not really impressed by it. But in packaging, these 2 figures are really nice. So no wonder, personally from a personal perspective, I think I also got into these 2 figures because they were really quite aesthetically pleasing. I usually don't really mention the packaging material or the box in my reviews, but if I see something that is worth mentioning like this, so this is something that is really nice. So when I took the figure out of the packaging, so I really took note of this. So if you have any project in the future that would need a really awesome backdrop, then you have this for a Spider-Man project. So in a Spider-Man action figure, we really don't need accessories like guns or posts or anything of that sort. What we need are really alternate sets of hands, which this Miles Morales has. So right out of the box, so the ones that are attached to the figure would be web spinning hands. So we also have fists, we also have web crawling hands, so that's already 3 pairs of alternate hands. And the last or really noteworthy hand to mention would be these Venom blast hand effects. So you combine the effect plus the handset, you have a hand effect set. So good job Hasbro on this handset for this Miles Morales figure. So we also have an alternate head sculpt. I really am not into displaying this action figure with that alternate head sculpt, but if you are a customizer or a kit basher or a modifier of an action figure, whatever you want to call it, then you have an extra accessory or an extra head sculpt to use with your future projects. So just for point of comparison, I also brought out the integrated suit Spider-Man, which I recently reviewed. So as you could see, the cinematic universe Spider-Man has only 1 set of hands, while the Gamerverse Spider-Man, the Miles Morales Spider-Man, would have several handsets and a alternate head sculpt. So with regards to purchase, if you're just choosing a single Spider-Man action figure and you're not interested in getting the cinematic universe Spider-Man, then this is the Spider-Man to get. So actually the figure is aesthetically pleasing. Of course, this is more has more red to it and is more vibrant in color, but if looking at them personally, I'm inclining more to on this figure versus this one. So let's get on with the review and discuss the details in depth. So integrated suit Spider-Man, Miles Morales Spider-Man, both on the same stand, so the thickness of the stands are the same. Now you could really note the difference between the two figures. So as for the mold, are we getting another rehash or reuse of same body molds, just differently painted? No, we're not getting any of those in these two figures. So the Miles Morales is a figure of its own. The integrated suit Spider-Man is a figure of its own. With regards to how the anatomy of the figure is designed versus the anatomy of the figure of the Miles Morales is designed, you could see the difference when you put them side by side. So whichever figure that you get from this, if you choose this one or this one, you're getting a whole new Spider-Man action figure, just a different flavor, and that's good, a different mold. So with regards to height, as you could see, the Miles Morales Spider-Man is taller and lankier, while the integrated suit Spider-Man is more bulkier and lesser in height. What these two figures would closely share would be the points of articulation. So they share the same points of articulation. So if you have either of the two figures, if you got this first and later you're thinking of purchasing this one, or if you got this one and thinking of purchasing this one later, then don't be surprised with the points of articulation, because with regards to the ranges, the limits and the maximums, they are the same. So with regards to the when you take it out of packaging, I subjected both figures to my wife's hair dryer, so heat application is a must. But I applied more heat to this figure because, well, based on actual experience, when I took this figure out and tried to really manipulate the joints, they were quite stiff. So this time it was not about the paint, but it was the plastic material. So the anatomy or the design of the figure, this is a thinner figure, so bordering to the female-like physique. So I was concerned that I could possibly break a elbow or break a arm or break a leg or a whatever point in the body. So I just subjected this figure first to a little bit of heat. So once I already was done in that part, it actually articulated nice, and the articulation points are the limits and the maximums are the same as I mentioned, especially with the articulation in the butterfly joints in the shoulders, because yes, we have butterfly joints for this one, we have butterfly joints for this one, but the ranges are really not that wide. So as you could see, that is I already applied heat to this figure, and that is the maximum that the shoulders would go backwards. This is the maximum that the shoulders would go forward. So that is the same over here. So this is the maximum that these shoulders would go backward. That is the maximum that the shoulders would go forwards. Now with the rest of articulation, it is this same. So what else are really noteworthy to mention with regards to likeness in these two figures? So I noted that they kind of share that same line on the neck. Well, of course, they are different molds, but when they were constructed, I guess when they were in the production line, so the neck piece on these figures were produced differently because the head is on a ball, and the neck piece that I mean is actually, as you could see, if you move that around, there's no point of articulation on the lower area over here on the clavicle area, but that is a connection joints wherein you connect that neck piece to the rest of the body and you connect the head. So no point of articulation over there. So when you move the head around, I mean like that is only the point of articulation for the head and neck area. So just something that is nice to know that these two figures share would be these head tilts. So the thing that I also mentioned with the neck is also available on this figure. As you could see, that line over here, so which separates this neck from the clavicle and the head, so it is there, just like this integrated suit SpiderMan action figure. So you have the shoulders, that is a neck, the separate piece, and we have the head and the joint. So but with regards to how clean it was put together, if you would not look for it, so it won't really be there, especially in a black suit like this. It's really not that visible until you really inspect the figure really up close and personal like this. So for example, this is just about 2 inches away from the camera lens, so you could really see the lines are visible, but they don't provide any form of articulation. But just like this other figure, it would produce the same side head tilt. So we have the integrated suit SpiderMan really close to the lens, so just concentrate your focus on the head or the head sculpt and the chest. Of course, the chest would really be nice because of the gold inlays and the SpiderMan emblem on the chest, plus the eye sockets are nicely painted, and we have panel lines on the head sculpt. But once we do this, just look at the difference with regards to the available details on this Miles Morales Spider-Man figure. So even if we have a really black suit action figure, just take a close look at the head sculpt and the chest. So in this area are the really fine details that are on the figure. So as you could see, the web lining, it is nicely painted. The red on it is glossy red, so when light touches it, it glows. The eye sockets are nicely painted, and we have texturing on the head sculpt and on the neck, so that texturing that is deeper than the web panel lines, the red panel lines. As you could see, the texturing, that is a really nice touch as compared to this head sculpt, which makes it really plain. So once we also move to the back of the figure, so the Spider-Man logo on the back, and that's really still nice texturing on the that is behind the web lining. That is a really nice touch. So great job, Hasbro. But the thing that I would like to mention, well, is it going to be a point of annoyance for you if there is a break in design like this? So when you try to bend the figure, the Spider-Man logo on the back, you would also separate these two legs from the rest of the Spider-Man logo body. But would it matter when you have your figure displayed up front? So I think that is not going to be a really big deal that we have to gripe on. Well, it's because when we're going to pose this action figure in different ways, or the poses that we like, of course the panel lines would break. So actually this is not a point of annoyance to me, because if I'm going to pose this figure in my shelf in a really dynamic way, that is spinning from spinning his web from one building to the other, so in a really dramatic pose, I think this back portion won't really be an honorable mention, because that pose would be really up front that way, so it's not visible on the back. Miles Morales figure with the web spinning hands. We have the Miles Morales figure with the wall crawling hands. The Miles Morales figure with the fists. We have the Miles Morales figure with the Venom Blast hand effect set. We have the Miles Morales alternate head sculpt. So we have the figure right now with a different hand configuration. So for the right arm, we have the Venom Blast handset. For the left arm, we have the web crawling handset. So the most common thing that you would really recognize or see right now would be how big those hands are. Well, of course, fists would be smaller because the wrist is pretty much bunched up. Now, what makes those hands really stand out, especially from this angle, especially this kind of handset, or this handset, when you look at it from a personal point of view, it's going to be really quite big. So it's some would say that it's not proportion, or personally I thought out of the box it was not proportion to the figure. But later I realized when I was looking at the figure and really playing with it was with regards to the diameter of the forearm. So the diameter of the forearm on this figure is smaller. So actually the construction or how it is detailed, it is really thin, and the diameter on the forearm really is small. So when you attach a handset like this, it would really look big. But actually, when I really looked at it for a very long time, and I also watched the Ultimate Spider-Man on Disney Plus. There's an episode there wherein Peter Parker would travel to different universes following the Green Goblin, so he would encounter Miles Morales, and the animation there had Miles Morales with really quite a sizable hands. But actually, when you take a look at it for a very long time, when you have this on display, it would really not stand out as much as on first glance, or when you take the figure out of packaging, because actually it really just grows on you. But if it's really your thing, you could just switch out these handsets for if for example you have other handsets available, black handsets available, you could switch those with a smaller handset. So I also tried to look at these other figure if they are a thing that is recurring. So the handset on this figure is also big. If you take out the web shooters, the attachment, the accessory, so actually the handset would really stand out. But taking out the web shooters on this action figure is a no-no, because you're going to break the design on the forearm. As you could see, without this piece as compared to the other forearm, so you have a change in design and it looks not nice, it looks ugly. So when you take out or swap out hands, just be careful not to lose these things. And last thing to mention with regards to detail on the figures would be on this Miles Morales figure, we have pinless joints. So for the forearms, we don't have any pins there, no pins. So especially with this handset attached, it really looks nice. So no pins, no pins too, and no pins on the knees. Okay, so if you like this review, like, comment, and subscribe to this channel, and let's move on to the photos and video shots.